So, we have an event, we'll say, that just took place. And I bet you're wondering why it is that something like this would be necessary. Well, if you didn't know, let me run you through the rabbit hole. See, if you notice, there's nothing on the hand, nothing on the collar, but, neither here nor there. Why would you think this would be necessary? Well, let me break it down. You see, Chevron was just overturned. Right? Now, what does that mean? In short, what that means is that these admiralty courts and these three-letter agencies like CPS, the COPs, right? The FEDs, right? All of these little three-letter agencies that have just been running amok in America, just warring against the Constitution and basically making up their own rules as they go, no longer have that ability. So what that means is that people are going to be able to boot them off because they're operating under false jurisdiction, right? Which means that you'll actually be able to take them to town for it legally, removing administrative law judges, right? Which means that they can no longer enforce statutes in the land. Now, if you're not sure what that means that all these three-letter agencies got to get the fuck out. Because people are waking up to the fact, right, that the United States is responsible for paying all your bills. Which means that you're waking up to the fact that the corporation of the United States has been getting in between you and the Treasury and stealing your money. A lot of people have been fixing their status, saying that they represent the state rather than the corporation, removing their citizenship, becoming a national but not a citizen. Which means that you're not part of the corporation, but you were in fact born here, which is true. The problem with that means that that whole entire system has to go. All of it. Okay? All of the system has to go. The only people that should be left are the sheriffs and the people that we elect to be the officials in the office. So, in order for you to welcome that system back in, they had to have a patsy. Somebody that was going to have an incident occur between them and that system. That way, when shit hits the fans and it gets released that it was a three-letter agency, this man will get the credit for removal of all these corrupt agencies so that you'll welcome that same Admiralty Maritime system back onto the land. Because right now you're sovereign, if you didn't know. So that you wouldn't, in fact, go and find the man that represents we the people that's actually responsible for getting Chevron overturned, that is responsible for all of the fake judges and things that are being brought up in the news right now, so that you wouldn't realize that it was one of we the people that actually took care of that corrupt system and think that it was actually this guy. Just the same as you thinking that he was the one that was responsible for getting rid of the Fed, the Federal Reserve. Meanwhile, you've been still using it, right? And then on top of that, while the Federal Reserve is still operating because you gave him all the credit, they got bankrupted, which means that they didn't have to pay you back all of the money that they've been taking from you. And you thanked him for that. You thanked him for making it possible to steal from you. So, you really should take a closer look at things like, how he has a perfectly clean hand and a perfectly clean collar, like they switched shirts while he was being tackled and covered. So that you would all give credit to this guy who represents that same corporate system, who's ran by the same people that are running the corporate system when he's not there, right? That every president has signed document, whole thing that you just keep ignoring in order to keep believing in the dream that they're selling you. But, they're trying to sell you the American dream. Meanwhile, you already have it. You're free. That overruling of Chevron by the Supreme Courts really opened up the woodworks for all these courts that are operating outside of common law, which means that all of those judges and all of those officials that are operating are doing so as an act of treason, what they're actually doing is warring against the Constitution. Any of these officers that show up representing these statutes, they're operating outside of their bounds. That's all the statutes have been deemed unconstitutional, which means that you shouldn't have to register your vehicle. You shouldn't have to get a driver's license. You shouldn't have to call your local agency to find out what you can and cannot build on your own property and your own land. All of these things are removed officially once the 28th passed that bill being abolished. So now, immediately following after, as the public is finding out that, in fact, all of these judges and all of these corporate members and all of these police and these child protective services, all of these corrupt agencies that are still operating here have already been overruled by the Supreme Court, which means that they all have to go. So now they have to find a way to make you think that it's going to be them that actually does this, when in fact, this is the man that is responsible for those bills being passed, and he's currently riding around the country right now serving all the judges in all the different states and all the different counties their documents to put them on notice that they have to basically step down from their position. So I told you the system was changing and you didn't believe me. Well, it's already changing, and now they're just trying to find a way to grasp at the strings of it by welcome that same system back in. Because as long as the corporation of America continues to try to rule over we the people, you will never have your freedom that you're guaranteed and you were told about when you went to school and learned of your Constitution. Because if you look up U.S. Code 8, subsection 8, the obligations or securities of the United States, it tells you right here that all your bills are paid by the United States. It's not by the money that you make at work. That's just indentured servitude. You've been being stolen from, and they're trying to find a way to continue stealing from you. You should come and follow us if you want to learn more.